Imagine walking into a clothing store and stopping at a simple display table. On that table sit two white t-shirts folded perfectly side by side. They look completely identical. Same cotton, same stitching, made in the same factory, built for the exact same purpose. One costs $10, the other has a small red rectangular logo on the chest and costs $500. According to everything basic economics teaches us, the decision should be obvious. A rational person should grab the $10 shirt and laugh at the $500 one. After all, the law of demand tells us that when prices rise, demand should fall. It is one of the core foundations of capitalism. We are supposed to seek value, efficiency, smart trade-offs. But that is not what happens in the real world. The $500 shirt sells out almost instantly. People line up outside the store. Some even camp out overnight on the sidewalk just for the chance to buy it, willingly handing over what could be a month of rent for a single t-shirt. Now, here's where it gets strange. If the company suddenly lowered the price from $500 to $20, almost nobody would want it anymore. Desire disappears. Demand collapses. The appeal exists for one reason only, because the price is irrationally high. This is not a failure of the market, it's a glitch in the human brain, one that quietly keeps millions of people financially stuck. It has a name, the Veblen Paradox. My name is Mike, and here on Mike Invest, I spend an unhealthy amount of time analyzing why intelligent people make financial decisions that slowly sabotage their future. If you've ever felt the magnetic pull to buy something you couldn't truly afford just to prove that you could, you're exactly who this video is for. Because today, we're dissecting the psychology of status. Here's the uncomfortable truth. One of the fastest ways to actually become rich is to stop trying to look rich. To understand why this trap is so powerful, we need to travel back to 1899. In 1899, an economist named Thorstein Veblen began closely observing how wealthy people behaved. He lived during the Gilded Age, the era of the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers, when enormous fortunes were being built and displayed with theatrical extravagance. And Veblen noticed something that shattered traditional economic thinking. The standard models were wrong. Economists believed humans were utility maximizers. We buy coats because they keep us warm, cars because they get us to work. But reality told a different story. Veblen watched people purchase silver spoons so heavy they were uncomfortable to use, and corsets so restrictive they made breathing difficult. These products reduced comfort instead of increasing it. Utility wasn't the point. Waste was. He called this conspicuous consumption. In hierarchical societies, the most efficient way to signal high status is not through smart spending, but through visible inefficiency. If you can afford a watch that tells time no better than a $10 Casio, but costs as much as a Honda Civic, you're broadcasting a powerful message. I have so many resources that I can burn this money and still be fine. This is the engine behind the Veblen Paradox. For certain goods, price is not a downside. Price is the feature. In normal markets, price is a barrier, the pain you endure to obtain the product. But in the Veblen market, the price itself creates the desire. Imagine if Rolex suddenly decided to sell its watches for $200, closer to the cost of materials. Sales wouldn't explode. The brand would collapse. The moment a Rolex becomes affordable to a grocery store assistant manager, it loses its power as a status signal for a CEO. Because the value was never in the gears. The value was always in the exclusion. We crave these items not because they're objectively better, but because they're harder to obtain. Higher prices create stronger barriers. Stronger barriers create more exclusive clubs, and exclusivity amplifies the signal. This inverted demand curve pushes prices to astonishing levels, completely detached from practical reality. And this is where the paradox turns tragic. The middle class gets pulled into a game they're mathematically designed to lose. The ultra-wealthy buy status goods with surplus capital. For a billionaire, a $300,000 car is a rounding error, irrelevant to long-term wealth. But the middle class looks upward and imitates the behavior, not from affordability, from fear. Fear of appearing unsuccessful. This phenomenon is known as pecuniary emulation. You buy the luxury car. the designer bag, the newest iPhone, not because the math works, but because you fear what your absence from the signal might communicate. In doing so, you quietly destroy the very mechanism that builds wealth. You trade stocks, index funds, and retirement contributions for rapidly depreciating liabilities, all to convince strangers you're doing fine. This behavior is not random, it's evolutionary. For millions of years, status meant survival. Consider the peacock, growing a massive, dazzling tail that actually makes it slower and more vulnerable to predators. Why evolve such a handicap? Because the tail signals genetic strength. I'm so fit I can survive despite this burden. Conspicuous consumption is simply the human version of that tail. In the modern world, this ancient instinct has been expertly hijacked by marketing departments that often understand your brain better than you do. They manufacture artificial scarcity, waiting lists, invitation-only purchases, limited releases. Think about the Birkin bag, where customers are expected to buy other products just for the opportunity to spend $10,000. Scarcity triggers primal status anxiety. The danger is that the finish line never stays put. The moment the middle class stretches to afford entry-level luxury, a Louis Vuitton bag or a Mercedes C-Class, elites migrate towards something even more exclusive. Logos that once screamed wealth eventually become ordinary, then tacky. So the wealthy pivot to quiet luxury, stealth wealth, and the chase continues. You end up sprinting in a race against competitors with infinite stamina while running on a financial broken ankle. The irony is brutal. By trying to look rich, you adopt the exact behaviors that guarantee you remain poor: overspending, underinvesting, delayed compounding. So how do you break the spell? You step off the status treadmill entirely. Because in the modern economy, true status is not possessions, it's freedom. A person driving a 10-year-old Toyota with $1 million invested holds infinitely more real power than someone in a brand new Range Rover living 2 paychecks from insolvency. You separate self-worth from net worth and adopt the philosophy of stealth wealth. The people who have truly won the financial game are often invisible. You walk past them in a grocery store without noticing. They understand something most people never learn. Wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is the cars not purchased, the diamonds declined, the first-class upgrade skipped. It's financial assets quietly compounding in the background, not yet converted into visible consumption. So the next time you feel pulled towards an expensive object simply because it's expensive, pause. Ask yourself, am I buying this for utility or for the signal? If you were the last person on Earth, would you still want it? If the answer is no, the trap is working. Thorsten Veblen showed us that humans are irresistibly drawn to shiny objects, but unlike peacocks, we possess the ability to override our programming. We can choose compounding over consumption. We can control our money instead of letting status control us. Because the strongest signal you'll ever send is not a watch on your wrist, it's the peace of mind in your eyes. If this video made you rethink your next purchase, hit like. Subscribe to Mike Invest to step outside the status game and build real, invisible wealth. And I'll see you in the next one.